Just want to dive right into it. Like Billy Goodbye. Who's Billy?
Ah, Billy could be anybody. It's more a song about something that doesn't really get sung about in songs, which is friendships. Quite there are so many songs about love affairs and relationships of the heart and sexual relationships, but most of the relationships that we have in our lives are friendships. We
Hmm.
surround ourselves by our friends, and we kind of define ourselves by about our friends. And I was thinking about different friendships in my life when I was writing it, and I was thinking about the friendships that I'd had years ago, and how not all friendships last a lifetime. It's not that you stop becoming friends immediately, but some friendships just kind of fade away
Yeah.
or don't continue. And I was thinking about that, and I was thinking, it's not a bad thing, because you move on with both of your lives and you do different things. And so the song is about how a friendship can come to an end, and at that point, you can celebrate that friendship rather than be sad about it being over.
I've actually talked about this subject a lot with my friends because I always love to say that I have multiple soulmates who are my friends. But the thing with friendship is nobody teaches you, let's say that you want a friendship to end. Nobody teaches you how to break up with a friend. Like we all know how to break
Totally.
up with like
Yeah.
a romantic relationship, but when it comes to friends, we have yeah, you're totally right. There are no songs, there are no real movies, or there's not like a manual how to deal with friendships.
Exactly. There's no convention on how to do it. And like if you break up in a relationship, there are certain things which are really not cool. Like you don't do it via a text message. You do it in a calm way that's respectful. But you're right, there's no kind of like guidelines, and it's just not talked about amongst people
No.
either. And so and also it's this feeling that if a friendship ends, it has to be because of some sense of animosity there. But it's very rarely the case. Sometimes it's the case, but quite
Yeah.
often it's not. You just kind of end up. Sometimes it can be like literally physically, you end up in different places.
Yeah.
Like if one of you moves country or something like that. But quite often it's you end up in different places just because of the way your life is progressing. So
For
yeah, that's what
sure.
the song's about.
I love
So I
that. Has
think,
your heart ever been broken by a friend?
oh God, yeah. What about you?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
And it,
terribly. When a friend lets you down, it can be terrible, like really, really horrible. Or even worse, if you find out a friend's been bitching about you or something like that.
oh,
Oh,
yeah,
it's the worst, isn't it?
it is.
And with my friends, I tend to be pretty loyal, and because of that, I kind of expect it back as well. And
Yeah.
I think we all are. I think
Yes.
everybody is. And if you feel that your standards of friendship are not being met on the other side, oh, it can really sting.
So when did you write this song?
Well, I started writing it. It must have been about at the beginning of the first lockdown. I think that's when I first had the ideas for it. I had the chorus and a very different verse, like it was totally different. And then sort of later on, I wrote a bunch of other songs, and I was actually playing my girlfriend some of the songs, and she was saying like, "What happened to that one that you were singing about the Billy Goodbye?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, you remember that one?" And she was going, "Yeah, that was super catchy." And so I went back. I said, "No, I didn't really like the verse." And she went, "Why did you write another verse then?" And so I went back and I was playing it, kind of like, yeah, because like the verse was originally quite miserable, and I thought, no, and that's when I kind of changed my perspective, and I thought, yeah, don't forget the best bits, like do enjoy it and celebrate. And that's when the song became more of a celebration than
Yeah.
anything else. So
I
that would have been earlier this year sometime.
Yeah, because I immediately noticed the fact that like with Always Ascending, there was this very new electronic sound. And I know you're not quite a nostalgic person. I think you described yourself once as a nostalgic, but
Mm.
still this song gives me um earlier Franz Ferdinand vibes.
Oh, right. Okay. Oh, that's interesting. It's something that I feel no matter what we try to do, like we could get a a bagpipe band and Latin American drummers playing like salsa music and it would still sound like Franz Ferdinand. Everything we do sounds like Franz Ferdinand, and maybe that's a good thing. I don't know, but yeah, but you're right. I think it does sound very us. I had a good time working with Stuart Price, the producer, because we were talking about the theme of the song and what it is, and about recollection, but in a non-nostalgic way. That subject did come up, and how you can reassess the past, and also how we listen to music now, which is not really so much in a linear way. It's as if music from all times exists simultaneously, yes, because it's available to us right now.
Yes.
And so sonically, that's the approach that we took to the track as well. So like at some points you would feel that, oh my God, that sounds like it could be 1973. And then suddenly it sounds like it couldn't have come from any other time than 2021 or our idea of 2022. And then, and we were talking about locations that we would like to visit sonically. So like we were talking about New York in 1978, or like we were talking about London in the late 80s, or what was the other one we were talking about? The Bahamas or something like that as well, like imagining taking part in an island record session, and all these sort of things, mashing them all together until you're completely disorientated and don't know which time you're actually existing in, which is kind of what the song is lyrically. And like I said, kind of the way we listen to music now.
As a nostalgic person, I know there's like a greatest hits album coming up. What was it like making that record and collecting all these songs?
It was strange to have to listen to music again, which I hadn't listened to for years, because I think it's the same for all artists. You know, you make a record and then you never listen to it yourself unless you're in a cafe or a shop when they play it, and then you get out there as fast as you can. So that was kind of cool, and it was like, oh yes, and it did sort of like make me think of where I was at those particular places, what I was thinking about, and who I was with. But yeah, like you say, I don't like to feel particularly nostalgic. Also, I've always liked greatest hits records. Mainly because they were in the house when I was growing up. You know, my parents, when I was a kid, they didn't have huge record collections because they couldn't really afford it. You know, like they had to spend money buying food for the kids, me and my brother and my sister, you know, rather than like massive record collection. So instead of having Low and Lodger by David Bowie, they had Changes. They had the Red and Blue Beatles albums. They had Rolled Gold rather than Goat's Head Soup and Sticky Fingers by the Rolling Stones, whatever. And, you know, for them, that's all they needed. They just did need to hear the best bits. That's all they wanted from a record.
Yeah.
But for me, when I was a kid, it was something else. It was something more than that. It was like this doorway you could step through and enter into the foyer of the world of this artist. And so like taking Changes as an example, it was like my step into the world of Bowie. And I was like, I love this. I need to find out more about this. And so I love the idea that you can be non-snobby about a greatest hits and think, yeah, it's just for the people that want to hear those songs, but also understand that it is that doorway. And there might be somebody somewhere who discovers Franz Ferdinand the same way that I discovered all those artists when I was a kid. Also speaking as an artist myself, like I love the idea of a retrospective. And you know, if you think of a visual artist, for example, when they do a retrospective, you go to a gallery and you see a retrospective, you don't see it from a nostalgic perspective. You see it from an understand. You see it so you get the perspective to understand the evolution, the arc of an artist's development over the course of a career, leading from where they start to where they are now, and might be a clue for the future. And that's how I kind of see retrospective albums of an artist. Like, you know, it might be that the artist is over and that's leading to the point that it's in, or it might be an artist like us, or when I heard Changes by Bowie, which is like kind of like, all right, this is leading to well, today, you know, like we recorded Billy Goodbye literally a few weeks ago, and which then gives you a clue as to what the future might be as well.
Yeah. So have you gotten any new insights about yourself as an artist now that you've seen your own trip from the beginning to now?
Oh, that's interesting. I mean, you see themes that develop. You certainly see musical themes and lyrical themes, and yeah, you definitely see that with a clarity that you wouldn't see if you were listening to things out of context. And it's the weird thing, but it's like without the distraction of detail. You
Mhm.
know, like it's great to go into an album and to get into the detail and to go to the B-sides, and I love that as a fan myself. But if you want to see the overall arc, you kind of go, all right, no, there it is there. And yeah, of course, there are themes that run through, like musically, this idea of making dance music, which is raw, played by a rock and roll band, that definitely runs across the course, and it's evolved in different ways across the album. And lyrical themes, I'm trying to think of lyrical themes, personal things disguised as universal things.
Right. Makes total sense. Makes total
Yeah,
sense.
yeah.
Well, there's one thing you've once said in an interview, and then I really like that. You said that what sustains a band is curiosity. So I was just wondering what has caught your attention lately, that made you curious and that keeps you alive as an artist?
Oh my God. I guess I guess you have to look more than at music itself. The things that I'm curious about.
I think like with the last record, you were obsessed with like Ethiopian music, or you
Yeah,
listened
no,
a
no,
lot to it.
I did love Ethiopian music and African music in general. You know, recently I've been hanging out in France a lot. I've been spending a lot of time in Paris, and I've been really curious about the sort of French songwriting tradition, because it's so different from anything that you find. It's completely distinct from this British songwriting tradition and the American songwriting tradition. It exists in its own world, like that idea of chanson. And it's fascinating coming in as an outsider to see that, because the emphasis is primarily on the lyric. And within French songwriting, if the lyric isn't beautiful language and comprehensible, then it's not taken seriously. It's not worth singing. And I love that idea, and I love the idea that you lead with the lyric and then the music follows on. Also musically, they do things within that tradition as well. Like there's this you often have these melodies that are rising. Like you think of the big bangers like non je ne regrette rien, like it's
Right.
it's like you have these big swells, or also the song which became My Way, which was originally called Comme d'habitude, which is this beautiful song with a very different meaning from the big universal swelling. It's a much more poignant, melancholic song. And again, it's very similar to Non je ne regrette rien. And it's this idea, again, you have this sort of like musical build up, which you don't really get so much in music that comes from the tradition of blues, rock and roll, R&B, dance music that we're so familiar with. And I like that. And when you listen to something in a completely different tradition from your own, you absorb it, and you kind of like, it's like you notice all these different things, and
Yeah.
yeah, it becomes part of who you are as well.
So has this discovery influenced the writing session of Billy Goodbye or the other single that's coming?
Not for these ones. I was writing a song the other day though, and it was definitely coming from a bit more of that flavor. But as is often the case, like we were talking about earlier, you start doing something and make something which you feel sounds totally like that tradition. Then when I listen back to it, there's a a disco bass line and the kind of guitar that I play, and it sounds like a Franz Ferdinand song.
Yeah.
And if I play, yeah, I played it to a friend of mine and said, it sounds really French, doesn't it? And they just went, no. Sounds like Franz Ferdinand. What are you talking about? So yeah, there you are.
Okay, so I have one last question for you. I was wondering, what has been your song of this past year?
My song of the last year. Oh, I know. Chaise Long by Wet Leg. I love that song.
It's amazing.
It's a banger, isn't it? It's so good. I love that dry delivery and that hooky riff, and they're cool. And yeah, because I remember Lawrence, who runs Domino, sent me a copy of it ages and ages ago, like maybe late last year or something like that, like a demo, and I was like, whoa, this is great. And I love it. You know, I'm very lucky that we're on Domino, and Domino's a great label, and
Yeah.
you know, quite regularly these bands appear, and it's kind of like, whoa, I'm so chuffed to be sharing a label with these guys. That's pretty cool. But yeah, I love that song.
Yeah, we're gonna play that song. Well, Alex, thank you so much for your time, and thank you so
No,
much
thank
for
you.
chatting with me about.
Seriously, it's lovely to talk to you.